Good morning.
All right. Okay, so yeah, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're doing okay. I don't know, just with studying for finals and with your final projects. So today's going to be really fast. We're just going to talk about the final exam, really, in our study guide over here. And that's going to be it. So before we talk about the study guide, your final memo 6, that is due next week. And so hopefully you saw the announcement that I gave like last week. Okay. So memo 6, that's going to be on your own again, because all we're doing is very basic calculations for the shear stress, the bearing stress. That's it for calculations, and then you're going to be doing your plots, and those are really basic too. So it seems like there hasn't been any issues so far. People have been doing it fine. Um, so yeah, but if you do have any questions, of course, you can ask me in Discord now, and that's fine. So that's due next week. And remember that it's only the results section. So that includes that little like mini procedure. So what we did in the lab, and then all of the results, and then the discussion section. All right, so that's it.
Professor,
Mm-hmm.
would you still want us to like have a title page or table of contents, or literally just results and discussion?
You can literally just have the results in the discussion.
Okay. And I'm assuming also interpretation of data as well.
Yeah.
That's like part of results. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we also post our code at the end, right? Or anything like that?
Yeah, I still want to see that. I mean, that's not really a big deal, but I mean, I just want to see it just to see it. Yeah.
Okay, but like so results, discussion code, and that's all I'm gonna send you. Just letting you know.
Yeah,
It's
no, that's good.
okay. Like nothing after that? Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's it for the last memo. Again, that's due next week. So work on that. And then, let's see, there's some announcements too for today. SOQs, they're due today. So if you haven't filled out the SOQ for this class yet, fill that out after this class. It only takes like 2 minutes. So, come on. You can fill that out. Let me go to it. I think half of the people so far in this class have filled it out. That's what I just saw before the class. So again, fill that out. And then also for this class, there's an indirect assessment survey. That's what it's called. You should have received an email about that a few days ago. So fill that out too. That takes 30 seconds. So, I mean, all this stuff takes just a few minutes to fill out. So, again, yeah, please fill both of these out right after class today. Just takes a minute. All right, and then your final, of course, that's next week, and basically that's going to be online through Canvas, okay? So for that, I'm going to give you a full day to work on it. That doesn't mean that it takes a full day. It just means I'm giving you a full day. So it's going to be within I can make it to where you can complete it within the time constraints of a final. So that's 2 hours and 50 minutes. It shouldn't take that long either. It should be, you know, I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half. It depends on how you work on the final yourself. So I'm allowing you to basically print out the final if you want, and you can write out your answers by hand on the final, because I know some people just prefer writing by hand, so I get that. So you can do that, and then you can upload it to Canvas by like scanning your final. Or you can download the PDF for the final, and if you have a tablet, you can write your answers that way. Or you can get the PDF and you can type out your answers if you want to do it that way too. I don't care. Whatever works best for you, you can do it like that. It just needs to be legible for me to read your answers when you upload it. Alright, so again, it shouldn't take Shouldn't take the full 2 hours, 50 minutes. It should be okay. So this is the study guide. Oh yeah, also individual work only, right? I mean, it's a final, so you got to do it by yourself. So I'm trusting you to work on it by yourself. I mean, you have 24 hours, so at the very least, you can work on this final by yourself. Oh, there's a question. Okay, can I just write my answers in a separate piece of paper and upload it as I don't have a printer? You can, but I would really, if you can, I really prefer that you print out the final and answer it that way. So if you don't have a printer, then yeah, you can just write out your answers on a separate piece of paper, but it's got to be super clear, which question is which. So write out, 1 through whatever I have on the final. Okay, it's got to be very clear.
So it's Friday, you said? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Friday to, I guess, technically Saturday, because you got a full day.
So it's next Friday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, so
Professor, you're
yeah.
saying that we don't have like we're not supposed to be taking the exam during class time. We have the full day to finish the exam.
Yeah, you got a full day. Yeah.
Okay.
From what time to what time?
It's gonna be 8:30 to 8:30.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions on the final?
And what you mean by 8:30 to 8:30 is 8:30 the next day, right?
Yeah.
Not 8:30 p.m., right?
No.
Okay, sorry.
A full 24 hours. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay. So this study guide here, basically, definitely take a look at this, and if it's me, I would definitely fill this out myself, because a lot of these questions are going to be in the final. Not all of these, because that's a lot, and that will, if you type out answers for all of these, especially if you're writing it out by hand, you'll see that it does take a while. But definitely, a fair amount of these will be on the final. I haven't made it yet, but again, I'm trying to make the final so it's a reasonable amount of time, maybe like take an hour or something to fill out. So again, make sure just to take a look at the study guide, fill it out, and if you do that, you're definitely gonna do well on the final. And also at the end here, you see that, so I might have any of these questions on the final, and I might make a few more questions that aren't on this study guide, but they're going to be similar in kind of style. So I try to make the final where it's related to the labs that we did. I try to do it that way instead of having like a full final of theoretical, basically math questions that you would have in your actual stress mechanics class, because that's why you take that class. This is a lab, so I want to focus on the labs that we did. Okay, so I'm not going to give you the answers now. That's for you to figure out. But we'll kind of go through it just to give you an idea of what the questions are like. So the first one, stress strain diagram. This will for sure be on the final. So I'll give you a stress strain diagram, and basically I'll ask you to label some points of interest and some regions of interest. So that's like the proportional limit, the yield point, UTS, fracture point, things like that. Next one is the elastic range versus the plastic range. So again, that'll be for a stress strain diagram. Basically, I'll ask you to explain the differences between these two different ranges. So just a few sentences. Next one, yield strength. So in our first lab, we solved for a yield strength using that 0.2% offset method. So we use that sometimes, and it's only sometimes, over a yield point. So I want you to explain why we sometimes use a yield strength over a yield point. And then we have necking, so you got to define necking and what kind of materials that this occurs for, so whether that's for a ductile material or a brittle material. Again, that goes back to lab 1. How an extensometer measures strain versus how a strain gauge measures strain, so that's lab 2. Next one, benefits and negatives of the extensometer and the strain gauge. That was, even a question on your second lab, so you should be able to answer this one quite easily. So, if you look at these questions, you'll see that a lot of them, I try to make them where, you're going to do, or it's going to be totally easy to do well in this final if you are being active in participating in the experiments yourself. Okay, next one. Where would you place the dial gauge when measuring the maximum deflection for a simply supported beam? So that's just like our lab, our third lab for the beam. Where did we put that dial gauge, and why did we put it there? To measure the maximum deflection. Okay, importance of effective length and how it's determined. So that's lab 4 for the column. Next one, importance of the radius of gyration for stability. Again, this is for the column lab. By the way, I really do like the column lab for questions. So there's going to be, 2 or 3 questions maybe on the column lab for the final. Next one is the difference of short, intermediate, and long columns. So, it's not this arbitrary, this is a short column, this is long. There's actually a method to kind of quantify them, and that was from the slenderness ratio. So remember that. How each column type fails. So we talked about this a lot too, for how a short column fails, intermediate, and a long column. And then differences of normal stress, compressive stress, shear stress, and bearing stress. So basically that's just about all of our labs here. I didn't put bending stress. Maybe I should put that too. So basically all of our labs right here and the different kind of stresses that we looked at throughout the semester. Question. Are they going to be more comprehensive based than calculation based? Yeah. Definitely more comprehension based. You're going to have 1 or 2 questions that are calculation based. So that's what you see here at the end. But yeah, most of them, it's going to be, here's a question, explain it. So yeah, most of them are comprehension based. Okay, next one is, this is very general here, but I might ask you to give me an overview of some experiments. So basically you need to explain the objectives that we had for said experiment and the general procedure. So I give you a very brief example here for experiment 1. So obviously I'm not going to have this be the question now. But for experiment 1, that was a tension test. We used the MTS tensile testing machine, and we had 3 different materials. So I don't want you to be super detailed. Like, I don't care if you list out the exact materials that we used. I want you to just give have an explanation for what we did for that experiment. So we had 3 materials. It was a tension test. We got load and deformation data, and we used that to convert that to stress and strain data to gain insight on the material properties. And we did that by getting a stress strain diagram. And from that, we could find the UTS, and we could find the stiffness for the material. We could look at the yield point or the yield strength for each material. And one of the ways to obtain all this data, we had the extensometer that was attached in the middle of the specimen, and that was to get our deformation data. Next one, possible sources of error and how they directly affect the results for each experiment. I like this question too, by the way. So yeah, I think I'm going to have this on the final. So basically, I might say, let's think about, I don't know, the beam lab. What were the possible sources of error that we had for that lab, and how do they directly affect the results for that experiment? So maybe, think about the dial gauge. Was the dial gauge, I guess this is almost an answer for one of our questions, but, we have the dial gauge. Theoretically, that should be in the very center of the beam, and that allows us to measure that maximum deflection there. So if that wasn't in the very center of the beam, that's a source of error, and that's going to affect our deflection readings, our theoretical, well, it's going to affect our deflection readings because the maximum deflection is going to be in the very center of the beam. So, that's one source of error, and there's more for that lab in particular. So basically, just think about the experiment, what the sources of error were, and how they directly affect the results. And then the very last thing, know how to do some basic calculations to find the following. So we have normal stress, normal strain, so basically lab 1 and 2. Bending stress, lab 3. Column deflection, and critical stress for every type of column, so short, intermediate, and long. That's lab 4. And again, I'll basically, for these this question, it's, calculation based. I might have 1 or 2 questions for that, because it's still important, to know how to do these very basic calculations, but I don't want that to be the focus of the final. So that'll just be 1 or 2 questions on that. All right, so yeah, it's a lot of stuff here, but it's, this is what's going to be on the final. So definitely fill it out, and you're going to breeze through the final. All right, any questions on that?
Yeah, Professor. How many questions approximately will we have? Because you said, if you gave us all these questions, it'd be a bit too much. Are you looking at like around 10, like 8 to 10 questions, or?
Yeah, I think 10. I think that's around what I had last semester.
Could we see like last semester's exam, or no?
No. I mean, it's basically this the study guide. I might have 1 or 2 other questions that aren't on the study guide, but if you fill the study guide out, you're going to do very well on the final. All right. Any other questions for the study guide or the final? No. All right. So yeah, definitely fill this out again. If you fill it out, you're gonna do well in the final. And basically, the final, it's a way to get a lot of points for this class. So, everyone should do well in the final. If you fill out the study guide, you should get an A basically. So yeah, I think the final is 30% of your grade, so it is a lot. So make sure you do well on it by filling this out. Okay, so that's basically it. A few more reminders though. Please fill out the SOQ today, so you might as well fill it out right now after class. You got an email on that. Same thing with this indirect assessment survey. You got an email on that too. I think from Nathan from our department. So fill those out, and you can also, you can get the SOQ from your email, or if you log into the school website, it's on the very front home page. You can access it from there. So that's it for the class, basically, besides the final. So yeah, so thanks for a good semester. It was, different because it was hybrid, but it was good to actually do the experiments in person this semester as compared to the past 2 semesters doing it virtually. That was very weird and not very good. So yeah, so I'm glad you guys got to do the experiments in person this time. Yeah, and hopefully it's the same thing next semester. I assume it will be fully in person too for your fluids lab. So yeah, so have fun with that, and good luck on all your finals this semester. Oh yeah, but before we leave, so for the final next week, I will be in Zoom for the duration of that kind of scheduled final. So that's, the 2 hours, 50 minutes. I'll be on Zoom if you have any questions, or on Discord too. Send me a message on there if you have questions. I don't think you will, but if you do, I'll be available to answer any questions you have on that. But this is the last time you'll see me, I guess kind of in person. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for today, and I guess that's probably it for really the class. So again, thanks a lot for a good semester, and please fill out the SOQs. What is the grading status for the last couple memos? So for the column and Sharpie Impact, I haven't got to it yet because I'm working on my own homework and final project for one of the classes I'm taking. But I'm gonna get them done as soon as I can. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's it, guys. Again, good luck in your finals, and yeah, that's it. So goodbye.
Thank you, Professor. Have a
Thank-
nice winter break.
Yeah, thanks, you too.
All right, thank you very much. Take care.
You too.
Thank you, Professor.
Hope the
Hopefully
finals
see you
go well.
fluids.
Have a good one.
Yeah, maybe, probably not, but maybe.
Maybe I'll see you around campus if you have a coffee. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, see you, man.
Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thanks.